Everyone at my brother's engagement party thought I was the family disappointment, the quiet, forgettable little brother who got invited out of obligation. My brother thought that. His fiancée thought that. My parents definitely thought that. What none of them knew was that I'd been watching them for weeks. I knew exactly what his fiancée was planning. And tonight, in front of 100 of their closest friends, I was going to let her walk right into the trap I'd built for her. But before I tell you about that night, I need to take you back to the dinner where I confirmed everything. The Sunday dinner that my family thought broke me. But really, it's the night I decided to end them. My name is Adrian Blackwood. I'm 32, and every Sunday, my mother hosts a family dinner that she calls a tradition, but honestly feels more like a performance review. The star of the show has always been my older brother Julian. Good-looking, charming, the kind of guy who walks into a room and everyone just gravitates toward him. He sells luxury real estate. He drives a car that costs more than most people's houses. And our parents worship the ground he walks on. Me? I'm the other one, the quiet one, the one who sits at the end of the table and picks at his food, while everyone else celebrates Julian's latest sale or his newest vacation or whatever it is this week. I run a data analytics company called Aurelia. Build it from scratch. But to my family, I'm just a guy who types on computers. Now here's what you need to understand. 2 weeks before this dinner, my security system flagged something unusual. Someone had been probing our servers. Not casually browsing, but actively trying to find cracks in our firewall. When I traced the source, it came back to a venture capital fund called Ravencrest Capital. I logged it, set up monitoring, and filed it away. So when Julian showed up to Sunday dinner with his new serious girlfriend and introduced her as Selina, a director at Ravencrest Capital, my heart didn't skip a beat. It stopped. I sat there, smiling politely, shaking her hand, and in that moment, every alarm in my head was going off at once. This was not a coincidence. This woman was not here because she loved my brother. She was here because of me. But I didn't flinch. I didn't react. I just sat down, picked up my fork, and played the part they all expected me to play. Dinner orbited around Julian like it always does. His new listing, his trip to Aspen, his whatever. I was invisible, which was fine. I needed to be invisible. I needed to watch. And then Selina turned to me. So, Julian tells me you're a programmer, Adrian, she said. And the way she said programmer, like she was describing someone who fixes copy machines for a living, I almost admired how calculated it was. She wasn't making small talk. She was running reconnaissance in real time, right there at my mother's dining table. I'm a data scientist, I said. I run my own. She cut me off with this tinkling little laugh. Oh, that's adorable. You have your own little spreadsheet company. It's so sweet that you have a hobby that pays the bills. The whole table laughed. Not mean, cruel laughter. Worse. The dismissive, patronizing kind. Like I was a child who'd just shown them a drawing, and they were all saying, "Oh, how nice, sweetie," before going back to their adult conversation. Julian draped his arm over Selina and grinned. She's a firecracker, isn't she? My mother chimed in with that voice she uses when she's pretending to care. Adrian, dear, we just worry. That world is so unstable. Not like Julian's work. Solid, tangible. Then my father cleared his throat. When my father clears his throat, it means a verdict is coming. Your brother builds things, Adrian. He deals with people, with real assets. You sit in a dark room and type. We just want you to have a secure future. Every word, a carefully placed brick in a wall they'd been building around me for 30 years. And here's the thing. Even knowing what I knew, even knowing that Selena was a predator casing her next score, it still hurt. That's the part nobody tells you about toxic families. You can see the manipulation clear as day, and it still cuts. Because some small, stupid part of you is still that kid hoping his dad will say, "I'm proud of you." But I swallowed it. I had a job to do. I tried something next. A test. I said, actually, I've been developing a forensic accounting AI. It's designed to detect sophisticated financial fraud. Selena's eyes flickered. Just for a fraction of a second. But I caught it. Interest. Real, hungry interest. Then she covered it with a dismissive wave. "Oh, honey, leave that to the big players. My firm is actually looking to acquire a small AI company right now. Real professionals. They have a brilliant algorithm that's going to change the game." She looked me up and down. "It's a bit out of your league." She was talking about my company. She was sitting at my family's dinner table, eating my mother's roast chicken, and casually bragging about her plan to steal my life's work. And nobody at that table, not my brother, not my parents, had any idea. My father broke the silence. "Adrian, don't be rude," he hissed. "Stop making the family look bad. Stop making them look bad. Not stand up for yourself. Not that's enough. Just shut up and don't embarrass us." I picked my fork back up. I didn't eat. I just sat there, cataloging everything. Every question she'd asked. Every technical detail she'd tried to fish out of me. Every smug little smile. They all laughed. And I laughed too, quietly, on the inside. Because Selena had just made the biggest mistake of her entire plan. She'd shown me her hand, and she had no idea I was already holding all the cards. I didn't go home that night. I drove straight to my office, a couple of rented rooms, in an unassuming building on the east side of town, the official headquarters of Obsidian Analytics. It wasn't glamorous. It was a workspace for me and my co-founder Miles, and most nights it smelled like cold pizza and burnt coffee. Miles was exactly where I expected him to be, hunched over a keyboard, 3 monitors glowing in front of him. He'd been my best friend since college. The only person in my life who never once looked at me and saw Julian's weird little brother. He looked up as I walked in, read my face in about half a second. "Sunday dinner?" he said. "Sunday dinner," I confirmed. I dropped into the chair next to him. "But this time it's different. Selena works at Ravencrest Capital." Miles went very still. "Ravencrest Capital. As in the Ravencrest Capital that's been hammering our servers?" "The same." He leaned back slowly, processing it. "So Julian's new girlfriend just happens to work at the fund that's been trying to break into our system, and she just happens to show up at your family dinner asking about your work." "It's not a coincidence, Miles." She targeted him. She researched the family, figured out the connection, and used Julian as a way in. "My brother is the front door, and she's been picking the lock." Miles let out a low whistle. Then he pulled up a file on his center monitor. "Our server access logs. Okay, so check this out. The probing I flagged 2 weeks ago, it's gotten way more aggressive. They're past the sniffing around phase. They're actively trying to access the source code directories. Blocked every time, but they're persistent. They're trying to steal the algorithm," I said. Selena practically told me to my face. She said her fund was acquiring a brilliant AI company. She was talking about us, Miles. She was bragging about robbing us while eating my mother's pot roast. That's bold. That's arrogant. And arrogance makes people sloppy. I told him about the dinner in detail. Every question Selena had asked, every technical probe disguised as small talk. Miles listened, his expression getting darker by the minute. When I finished, he turned to me with that look he gets when he's about to say something important. "You know we're sitting on an 8-figure acquisition deal, right? Whitmore Holdings is in final due diligence. If Ravencrest Capital clones our algorithm before the deal closes, we lose everything. Not just the money. Our reputation, our IP, years of work. Gone." "I know." "So what's the play?" And that's when I told him the part I hadn't told anyone. The part that had been forming in the back of my mind for weeks, ever since I first noticed Ravencrest Capital sniffing around our servers. "Remember that family barbecue last month? When I was talking to my cousin Victor about the predictive modeling breakthrough?" Miles nodded slowly. "That wasn't an accident. I knew Victor would talk. He's always trying to impress Julian, the golden child's #1 fan. So I gave him just enough real information to sound credible, mixed with enough technical misdirection to send anyone who acted on it down a dead end." Miles stared at me. "You used your own cousin as a leak, on purpose." "I used him as a canary in a coal mine. I needed to know if someone in my family was feeding information to the outside. And sure enough, within a week, Ravencrest Capital's probing shifted. They started targeting the exact areas I'd described to Victor. the fake ones. So Victor told Julian. Julian told Selena. And Selena told her team exactly where to dig. Except they've been digging in the wrong place this whole time. Miles was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled up another screen, financial transaction records. I wasn't going to bring this up until I was sure, but since we're laying everything out, he pointed at a line item. Victor received a $5,000 deposit from a shell company 2 weeks ago. I traced it back through 3 layers. It's Ravencrest Capital money. I didn't even blink. I know. I saw it hit his Venmo the day after the barbecue. You already knew. I've known everything, Miles. Every move, every player, every dollar. The only thing I didn't know was Selena's face. Now I have that too. Miles sat back and looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. So what do? We build a honeypot. We create a fake vulnerability in our demo server. Make it look like a backdoor into the source code. Irresistible bait for someone who thinks they're smarter than everyone. The moment they access it, we record everything. Keystrokes, screen activity, and audio through their microphone. We get Selena on tape directing the theft. And then we wait for the engagement party. He raised an eyebrow. The engagement party. 100 guests. My whole family. All of Julian and Selena's most important friends and colleagues. And one very special attendee. Harrison, the CEO of Whitmore Holdings. He's an old friend of my father's. He'll be there. You're going to play the evidence at the party, in front of everyone. I'm going to let Selena destroy herself in front of everyone. All I have to do is press play. Miles was quiet again. Then a slow, fierce grin spread across his face. You terrifying, beautiful nerd. Let's build that honeypot. We spent the next 72 hours turning our office into a war room. The honeypot was elegant. A section of our demo server designed to look like a vulnerability, complete with breadcrumbs that would lead any hacker straight to it. But the moment they stepped inside, they were ours. Every click recorded, every word captured. We baited the hook by sending a routine system update to all demo users mentioning a temporary relaxation of security protocols for maintenance. And then we waited. We didn't have to wait long. But Selena wasn't done escalating. What she did next almost made me blow the whole operation. Not because it was smart, but because it was personal. 3 days before the engagement party, Selena convinced my mother to host a family brunch. The purpose, supposedly, was to bring the family closer together before the big celebration. The real purpose became clear about 10 minutes in. We were sitting around my parents' kitchen table. Me, Julian, Selena, my parents, and my cousin Victor, who couldn't look me in the eye. Selena was glowing, playing the role of the perfect future daughter-in-law. And then she made her move. I've been thinking, she said, her voice sweet as antifreeze, about how wonderful it would be if Julian and Adrian could work together. A partnership. Adrian has all this tech knowledge, and Julian has the business connections. Wouldn't it be amazing if they combined forces? My mother lit up like a Christmas tree. Oh, that's a beautiful idea. What Selena was actually proposing, and everyone at that table was too charmed or too stupid to see it, was that I hand over my intellectual property, gift wrap my algorithm, and hand it to Julian, who would hand it to Selena, who would hand it to Ravencrest Capital. A family-friendly, hostile takeover. My father nodded like a judge delivering a ruling. That's sensible. Family should help family. I said carefully, I appreciate the thought, but my company's in a complicated phase right now. It's not really the right time for... My mother cut me off. The warmth vanished from her voice like someone flipped a switch. We have always supported Julian because he's willing to share. He's a team player. You've always been selfish, Adrian, even as a child. Selfish. For building something on my own after they refused to help me. Selfish for not handing it over to the son they actually loved. Selena delivered the kill shot. She turned to me with this look of exaggerated pity and said, I just think it's sad that Adrian would rather hoard his little project than help his own brother succeed. But I guess some people are just wired that way. I wanted to flip that table over. I wanted to pull out my phone and show them the server logs, The recordings, the $5,000 payment to Victor. I wanted to watch Selina's face crumble in real time, but I didn't, because the party was 3 days away, and the audience at that party was worth 100 family branches. So I took a breath. I looked down at my plate, and I said quietly, "You're right. I'll think about it." Selina smiled. My parents beamed. Julian clapped me on the shoulder. They thought they'd broken me. She thought she'd won. My family thought I'd caved. What none of them knew was that every keystroke, every whispered command, every late-night attempt to crack my firewall, I had all of it. Audio, video, timestamps. And in 3 days, 100 of their closest friends were going to see every single second of it. The night of the engagement party, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror for a long time. Navy blue suit, clean shave, calm eyes. I looked like a man going to a celebration. I was a man going to a demolition. I arrived fashionably late. The ballroom was exactly what you'd expect from my family. Over the top. Crystal chandeliers, towering flower arrangements that probably cost more than my first car. A string quartet playing something soft and forgettable. A giant screen behind the stage cycled through a slideshow of Julian and Selina. Perfect smiles. Exotic vacations. A life curated for an audience. 100 people filled the room. Business associates, family friends, people who mattered to my parents' social standing. Everyone dressed sharp. Everyone murmuring polite things about what a beautiful couple they made. It was a room built on appearances, and tonight, I was going to tear every single one of them down. My mother spotted me first. She gave me a tight little wave from across the room. The kind you give a neighbor you don't particularly like, but have to acknowledge. Her eyes were already scanning past me for someone more important to talk to. My father was holding court near the bar, shaking hands, laughing too loud. Classic Richard Miller. Power networking. It didn't take long for the happy couple to find me. Julian swaggered over with a champagne glass in one hand and Selena attached to his other arm like a designer accessory. "There he is," he boomed, clapping me on the shoulder hard enough to rattle my teeth. "Glad you could make it, little brother. For a second I thought you might be too busy with your, you know." He waved his hand vaguely, like my entire career was too abstract for him to grasp. Selina smiled at me, venomously sweet. "We were just talking about you, Adrian. I was telling Julian how impressed I am with your dedication. It's so rare to see someone so passionate about their little projects. 3 days ago, that would have been the bait. She wanted me flustered. She wanted the awkward little brother to stammer and retreat. But I wasn't that person anymore. I'm not sure I ever was." I smiled back. Warm. Genuine. Completely in control. "Thanks, Selina. Actually, my little project is about to have a very big week. I can't wait to see what the future holds." Something shifted behind her eyes. A flicker of confusion. That wasn't the script. I wasn't supposed to be confident. I wasn't supposed to look like I knew something she didn't. Before she could recalibrate, a man with silver hair and an aura of quiet authority approached our group. My pulse ticked up exactly 1 notch. Harrison. Right on time. My father practically jogged over, his face stretched into that sycophantic grin he reserves for people who are richer than him. "Harrison, so glad you could make it. You know my son Julian, of course. And this is his brilliant fiancée, Selina." Harrison shook their hands politely. Then his eyes landed on me. A pause. A flicker of recognition from our video calls. "And this is our other son, Adrian," my father added, almost an afterthought, like mentioning the side salad nobody ordered. Harrison extended his hand. His grip was firm and warm and full of meaning. "Adrian, it's a pleasure to finally meet you in person. We are all incredibly excited about the work you've been doing." Silence. The confused kind. Julian frowned. Selina's smile went rigid at the edges. My father looked like someone had just spoken to him in a foreign language. "You two know each other?" My father managed. "In a manner of speaking," Harrison said smoothly. "Adrian is something of a legend in our R&D department." Selena recovered fast. I'll give her that. She jumped in with a light laugh, trying to steer the moment. "Oh, Adrian is just full of surprises. I hope one day your company gets noticed by a big fund like mine. You just have to keep dreaming, right? That was the line. The final arrogant jab. The last time she would ever look down at me. I gave her a serene smile. You know, Selena, I said, just loud enough for our little group to hear. I think you're going to be very interested in what happens next. On stage, the MC tapped the microphone. It was time for the toasts. Julian, never one to miss a chance to talk about himself, gave a short speech. He thanked everyone, praised Selena like she'd cured cancer, and then, with a smug grin that I will remember for the rest of my life, he called me up to the stage. And now I'd like to invite my little brother, Adrian, to say a few words. Come on up, Adrian. Don't be shy. Polite applause. Every eye in the room turned to me. It was a power play. He wanted the quiet, bumbling brother up there as a contrast to his own dazzling success. He wanted me to say something awkward, get a few sympathetic laughs, and fade back into the wallpaper. Julian grabbed the mic and called me up to the stage. He wanted me to play the role of the awkward little brother one last time. He had no idea he was handing me the detonator. I walked up. My heart was a steady, cold drum. I felt the small remote in my jacket pocket. Cool, solid, ready. I adjusted the microphone. The room went quiet. Thank you, Julian, I said. My voice was calm. Clearer than it had ever been. I don't have a long speech prepared. I've always believed that actions speak louder than words. And lately, I've been made aware of some very interesting actions. I looked directly at Selena. Front row, still smiling, but the smile was starting to crack at the edges, like ice over a river that's moving too fast underneath. Selena in particular has shown a remarkable interest in the world of forensic accounting AI. She's been so curious about my little project. So instead of a toast, I thought I'd share a bit of that project with all of you tonight. I pressed the button. The romantic slideshow vanished. In its place, a screen recording appeared. Date and timestamp in the corner. 2 nights ago, a user logged into Ravencrest Capital's network. The mouse moving frantically across the screen, navigating file directories, hammering at firewall barriers. Me honeypot, wide open and waiting. A collective gasp rippled through the room. And then came the audio. Crystal clear through the ballroom's sound system. Selena's voice, sharp, unmistakable. Impossible to deny. Come on, find the core algorithm. We just need the source code, and we can build our own clone. By the time we launch, the little accounting nerd who built this will never know what hit him. The room went so silent, I could hear the ice settling in someone's glass 30 feet away. Selena's face drained of color. Not slowly. All at once, like someone had pulled a plug. She looked like she'd been turned to stone. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. No sound came out. The video kept playing. It showed her directing a small team, barking orders, pointing at my stolen file structure on screen. It captured her frustration when certain directories wouldn't open. It recorded her greed, her contempt, her absolute certainty that the little accounting nerd would never fight back. Julian stared at the screen, then at Selena, then back at the screen. His face cycled through confusion, disbelief, and something that looked a lot like horror. When the recording ended, I let the silence sit. I let the last echo of Selena's voice, "We'll never know what hit him," hang in the air like smoke. Then I turned back to the microphone. The little accounting nerd she's referring to, that's me. My voice rang across the ballroom. The company she was trying to steal from? Obsidian Analytics. That's my company. I built it. From scratch. Without a dollar of help from anyone in this room. I paused. Let that land. And there's one more thing. I looked at Harrison, who was watching the scene with a grim, focused expression. Then I turned my gaze back to Selena. You said your fund was looking to acquire a brilliant AI company. You were right to be interested. Whitmore Holdings, Mr. Harrison's company, finalized that acquisition this morning. Another ripple through the crowd. Harrison gave a single, slow nod. As part of that deal, I've accepted a new role leading their AI innovation division. I looked directly into Selena's eyes. So, in a way, Selena, You were right about my work. Your fund is very interested in it. The difference is, as of tomorrow morning, I'm your boss's boss. Selena launched. She actually launched toward the stage, one hand reaching for the remote, the other pushing past a stunned guest. "Turn it off," she screamed. "He's lying. This is fabricated." Julian caught her arm and pulled her back, but not gently, not protectively. More like a man trying to distance himself from something toxic. He shook her off and stepped away, his face a mask of disgust and public humiliation. Harrison stood. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The room was already hanging on every breath. He looked at me and said simply, "That was unorthodox. But the evidence speaks for itself." A woman with a severe haircut near the back, I'd later learn she was Selena's managing director, was already on her phone, speaking in low, rapid tones. The kind of call that ends careers. Harrison gave me a final nod. Not just acknowledgement, respect. Then he walked out, leaving a trail of quiet authority behind him. Selena stood in the middle of the ballroom, mascara starting to run, surrounded by people who were already looking away. She turned in a slow circle, searching for an ally, a defender, anyone. She found no one. She grabbed her clutch and fled through the side exit, heels clicking against the marble floor like a countdown reaching zero. My parents sat frozen in the front row. My mother's hand was pressed over her mouth. My father looked like he'd aged 10 years in 90 seconds. And Julian. Julian just stood there, pale and hollow, staring at me like he was seeing a stranger. He wasn't looking at his failure of a little brother anymore. He was looking at the man who had just detonated his entire world. And for the first time in 32 years, he had absolutely nothing to say. I almost made it to my car. They caught me in the parking garage. A desperate, broken little delegation. My father, my mother, and Julian. Their footsteps echoed off the concrete walls like a countdown. "Adrian, wait." My father's voice bounced around the empty space. It sounded smaller out here, away from the ballroom, away from the audience he performed for. I stopped walking, but I didn't turn around. I just stood there, keys in my hand, and waited. "You can't just walk away," my mother said. Her voice was shaking, not with sadness, but with fury. The kind of anger that comes from losing control. "You have embarrassed this family in a way I never thought possible. You humiliated your brother. You destroyed his future. In front of everyone." I turned around slowly. The garage lights were harsh and unflattering. They cast long shadows and stripped away all the polish. No chandeliers out here. No string quartet. Just three people who looked smaller and older than I'd ever seen them. "Selena was stealing my work," I said, my voice level. "She was going to clone my algorithm and destroy my company." "Did you hear that part? Or were you too focused on the social embarrassment?" My father's jaw tightened. "She was ambitious. Maybe she went too far. But you handled this with no class. You aired our dirty laundry in public, like some kind of... It stopped being our laundry the moment you chose her over me," I said. "It stopped being our laundry every time you praised Julian for breathing and dismissed me for succeeding. You didn't want a son, you wanted a mirror. And when I wasn't your reflection, you tried to erase me." Julian stepped forward. He looked wrecked, tie loosened, eyes wild, the golden boy tarnish showing through for the first time. "You could have just told me, Adrian. You could have pulled me aside, shown me the evidence. We could have dealt with this privately. A divorce would have been less messy than what you just did." I actually laughed, a real laugh. "Told you?" Told the man who laughed the loudest when his fiancée called my life's work adorable. "You wouldn't have listened, Julian. You never listen. You just wait for your turn to talk. That's not fair." "Fair?" The word tasted like rust. "You want to talk about fair? 5 years ago, I asked Dad for $20,000 to build a prototype. A seed investment. He said no, too risky, a computer fantasy. 2 weeks later, he bought you a BMW for being salesman of the month. $20,000 would have been a rounding error on that car." My father opened his mouth. Nothing came out. I built Aurelia with nothing. 2 jobs, no sleep, no support. And when it started to work, When it started to actually become something, you know what happened? You introduced me to a woman who was planning to steal it. And you all sat there and watched her mock me, and you laughed along. A heavy silence fell between us. My mother's eyes were wet, but they were tears of frustration, not remorse. She wasn't crying because she was sorry. She was crying because she'd lost. And then it came out. The thing she'd been holding back all night. We invested everything in Julian, she said, her voice cracking. Your father and I. Our savings. Our retirement. We put it all into his real estate ventures because we thought he was the sure thing. And now it's gone. All of it. The market turned, and it's all gone. The words landed between us like a block of ice. So that was it. That was the math behind 30 years of favoritism. Julian wasn't the favorite because they loved him more. He was the favorite because they'd bet on him. Their entire financial future, their retirement, their legacy, was riding on Julian being the winner. I was the forgotten savings bond collecting dust in a drawer, while they poured everything into their high-yield, high-risk golden child. And their investment had just crashed. I see, I said softly. That explains a lot, actually. So are you going to help us or not? My father demanded. Even now, even standing in a parking garage with his world in pieces, the man couldn't ask. He could only demand. No, I said. I'm not. My mother made a sound like she'd been slapped. But I will give you one thing, I continued. The truth. I looked at each of them, one at a time. My father, stiff and defiant. My mother, trembling with a rage she'd never admit was actually fear. Julian, hollowed out, searching my face for the brother he thought he knew. I want you to know something, I said. At that barbecue, when Victor told Julian about my project, I let him. I've known what Selina was doing for weeks. Every dinner, every insult, every time you laughed at me. I was already 10 steps ahead. I just needed you all to keep being exactly who you are. I paused. And you didn't disappoint. The silence that followed was different from any silence I'd ever shared with my family. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't tense. It was the sound of people realizing they had never known someone they'd lived with for 3 decades. It was the sound of a story being rewritten in real time. My mother whispered, "You planned this? All of it?" I protected myself. I corrected her. Because nobody else was going to. I unlocked my car, opened the door. Then I stopped and said one last thing. Not out of cruelty, but out of a calm, final honesty. I'm done being your disappointment. I'm done being the backup plan. And I'm done needing your permission to be proud of what I built. I got in, started the engine, pulled out of the space. In my rearview mirror, I watched them shrink. 3 people who had spent 30 years underestimating me, finally realizing they never knew me at all. I drove for a long time that night. No destination, just motion. The city lights blurred past the windows, and for the first time in my life, the silence in the car didn't feel lonely. It felt like space, like room to breathe. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my new office at Whitmore Holdings, Vice President of AI Innovation. I have a team that challenges me, a boss who respects me, and work that actually matters. We're building tools that detect fraud before it happens. My little spreadsheet company is changing the game. I haven't spoken to my family since that night in the parking garage. I hear things sometimes through the grapevine. Julian lost most of his clients. Selena is facing a civil lawsuit from Whitmore Holdings. Victor left town. My parents are seeing a financial advisor about their retirement, or what's left of it. I don't celebrate any of it. I don't feel satisfaction when I hear bad news about them. I just feel quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after a storm passes, and you realize you're still standing. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far. If there was a version of this where I could have protected my company without blowing up my family. Maybe there was. But that version required them to see me as someone worth protecting in the first place. And they never did. Not until I forced them to. I'm not telling you this story because I want you to think I'm a hero. I'm telling you because for 32 years I was the person in the room that everybody underestimated. The quiet one. The forgettable one. The one they talked over and laughed at and dismissed. And if you're that person right now, if you're sitting at someone else's table, shrinking yourself so they can feel big, I need you to hear this. You don't have to stay small. You don't have to wait for their permission. And you sure as hell don't have to play by their rules. Sometimes the only way to win is to flip the whole board over and walk away. I did. And I've never looked back. Thank you for sticking with me through this whole story. It means more than you know. Now I want to hear from you, because I know I'm not the only one who's been through something like this. Was I right to expose Selena at the party? Or should I have handled it privately and kept the family peace? Drop a 1 in the comments if you think I did the right thing. Drop a 2 if you think I went too far. I read every single comment, and I genuinely want to know what you think. And if you've ever been the underestimated one in your family, the one who got overlooked while someone else got all the praise, tell me your story. I want to hear it. Hit that subscribe button if you want to hear what happened next. Because trust me, this wasn't the last I heard from my family. Not by a long shot.